Oh yeah, it's happening! First raid for a long time. It's been like a month between the sins. That was the name I was looking for. The word. What is wrong with my French brain today? Boop. I have to make it loop, please. I hope Consortium will come here. Look at that. Still like that's David tweeted. Look at that. I'm already pumped. Nice. Love it. You guys are real troopers. Let's put the music back, shall we? Which one is it? SFX, I believe. Not only Scream, but it was this one. Whoa, 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 whoa. That's. Just do it! Just do it! I am here, bitches! Is that you, Great Bird? Is that you? Is it Great Bird? Is it the guy? Yes, he's here. Is it you, Gregory? I can confirm that this is him. Sweet! Interdimensional Game is in the house. There you go. Interdimensional Games. Sweet! You did it. Nice. All right. So I'm gonna stop the music first. I'm gonna call you on Skype, man. Mr. Gregory, please show up in Skype. I'm calling you right now. I hope I can see you on video. Hello, Mr. Gregory.
Greetings.
Hey, hello. How you doing? We can all hear you. Can you put your camera up? Do you have a camera?
Yeah, yes I do.
Sweet! Oh yeah, nice. Look at your pretty face. Okay, so I'm gonna start a little intro, and then everybody will be able to see you. All right, so stick around for like 5 seconds.
Yep, sounds good.
There you go. Awesome people I'd like to be. Hello, monkeys. Welcome, Gregory MacMartin from Interdimensional Games. I hope I pronounced that right. Please, be sorry for my French brain. I
grew up in Ottawa, so I'm quite It's all good.
Okay, there you go. Okay, sweet. Please show yourself, present your company, present your game. You're in the spotlight. Just do it right now.
Do it.
Do it.
Hi, how's it going, everybody? I'm Gregory MacMartin. I represent Interdimensional Games. We're a true hardcore indie game developer. We're kind of aspire to make big games. As you can see in the trailer, that's our next upcoming game.
Yeah, it looks fantastic, man. I don't know if you saw the Twitch just before we came out in the interview, but I got scared for real on the trailer.
Yeah, I did see you guys present that. Yeah, no, we're really proud of what we're working on now. We're also proud of the game we have out right now, Consortium. It's a game that's hasn't exactly hit mainstream yet, but we're really proud of it. It's our first game, and it does things that no other game does. There's no other game out there quite like it. So
sweet. Yeah. Hang on, did I present the wrong trailer or something?
No. The trailer you saw that's for an upcoming game, right? That's for the sequel to.
Sequel for Consortium called The Tower Prophecy. Okay,
that's
now
correct.
I get it.
Yeah, but the first game is just called Consortium, and this one's of course the Consortium, The Tower Prophecy.
Okay,
yeah.
Phew, I was scared for a moment.
It's actually part of a trilogy. So the first game is game 1 of the trilogy. The trailer you saw is for game 2 of the trilogy, which we're working on now, and then. You have big ideas for game 3. But,
Shit, okay, so it's a long-term plan. I mean, that must be taking like a long time every single game, but you do have like a master plan on top of all that.
Big time, yeah. We actually worked up the story years and years ago. Yeah.
Shit, okay. And how long have you been starting the Consortium series?
I actually incorporated the company in September 2006.
Oh shit, okay, so even longer than me. Oh. So you're the expert now. Okay, I shall bow to you, man.
Well, that's in my indie life. It started then. Although technically it started, but I came out of high school in '94. I did my first video game in 1994, actually.
Okay.
A game called Radix Beyond the Void. It was a shareware title published by a company called Epic Mega Games. Whoa. I've been around the block a few times.
So you started like in '94, you said?
Yeah.
So like 20 years ago.
Yes.
So you have double the experience. All right, I shall shut up and listen to your wisdom now.
Well, video game development has certainly changed a lot in the last 10 years. It's opened up. It's become open to the masses. Everybody can do it now. So it's interesting because it's now there's way more ideas and way more. Unique and original games can actually find the light of day because of the latest and greatest tools allow you to actually build almost whatever you can imagine, and that's really awesome. Back in the old days, that was not moved it to case, right? In order to get a game greenlit, you had to go through all kinds of rigmarole crap. But nowadays, if you have a great idea, you have a successful Kickstarter campaign, boom, suddenly your dream game could be going.
It's much easier today than it was like 20 years ago. I don't even know where I could start making games like in 94. I mean, in 94 I was like 8 years old, I think. I was 10 years old. So yeah. I was barely reading, so I'm gonna turn to my audience for a second, guys. If you have some question for the awesome Gregory here, please ask Dear Latch in the chat, and then follow by your question. All right, so I will collect the question, and then I will ask Mr. Gregory here. So I have connected my stuff, I guess, so it should be there. So please just ask Dear Latch, and then follow by your question. All right, so how did you start it up, being an indie then, like in 94, since you already said that it was super hard at that time? How did you get in there? I mean, I'm super interested in that.
Yeah, it's a good question. It's a bit of a long story. Basically, me and a couple of guys from high school started working on a video game. It turns out that I was kind of lucky because I didn't start off as a programmer per se, although I've become a pretty darn good technical gameplay programmer type guy. Gameplay technical designer, I guess, is I can say my skill set now. I'm able to do a lot of game coding. But anyways, back in the day, a couple guys from I knew from high school were really, really awesome programmers, and they sort of were self-driven, and they got together and built this engine that was sort of inspired by Doom and Wolfenstein, sort of the early days of the Carmackian engines. And so they built this engine, and they wanted to make a game with it. So they also built this editor that was able to create back then it was 3D levels, so it was using sector based, so it was like kind of like the Doom levels, right, where there's just floor and ceiling and walls. And anyway, so I grabbed the editor and started using it, and got immediately soaked to it like water to a sponge, and we started making levels with it, and I was like, this is really fun. And I showed the levels to the guys, and this is amazing, let's make a game together. So I sort of joined the team, and just sort of right out of high school started. I was actually going to Carleton University at the time, taking political science, believe it or not.
Okay.
And I basically reached a point during that year where I'm like, okay, do I keep working on the school? Because I also had a part-time job. So it's part-time job, university, and working on a video game. And slowly but surely, the working on the video game took more and more of my time, more and more of my interest, obviously, and fully devoted my time to that. And and we made this game called Radix Beyond the Void. You can look it up. It's actually it's a bit of a cult. Bit of a cult hit, I guess you could say. There's still people today that play it. You can actually look it up. There's a guy on Facebook that has a page dedicated to it. He has a picture of wearing a shirt that he made with on it, and just like
that's awesome. You even have fans like 20
even
years
now,
later.
people are still playing it. Yeah, the guy that recently did a playthrough. You can look on YouTube. You can find where I did a playthrough with one weapon. Did the entire game with one weapon. It's like a first-person shooter. It's like if you took the game Descent and combine it with Doom, you'd get Radix. That's what that first game. So that's way back in the day. And then I actually worked on a game called Aftershock for Quake. It was actually the first expansion pack for Quake that was out on the shelves way back in 96. And then I joined Cave Dog and worked at Cave Dog Entertainment. You remember that? The Total Annihilation?
Rings a bell.
Yeah, it's a little old school now, late 90s. But I worked on a game called Amen the Awakening there that actually never shipped. The whole Cave Dog thing collapsed under our weight. But it was an awesome project. It had caught a lot of waves, and we learned a lot of stuff. And it was going to be one of the first big first-person sci-fi story-driven games, and that was fun. Everything, and then I kind of I sort of did the AAA thing for a couple of years, right? So after that, I got a job and worked on Lord of the Rings Online at Turbine Entertainment. I led up the game design for Harry Potter Chamber of Secrets PC, which is a game I'm very proud of, and people still talk highly about how cool that game is, and I'm very proud of it. Also went to Radical and worked on Incredible Hulk Ultimate Destruction. I spent a year of my life on that thing, put a lot of work into that. And also Scarface The World Is Yours, a big open world GTA style game on the consoles. So I kind of did a bit of went jumping different companies and experienced game development from a bunch of different vantage points.
Oh man, that's amazing.
Learned as much as I could. So then my intention was always to go back and finally make the games I wanted to make on my own. So after Radical, I was like, okay, it's time to do it. So I just jumped off the AAA bandwagon and just dived into making Consortium really. And
you kind of started like as an indie, and then you went to the industry afterwards, and then you're back in an indie now. Yep. So you must be like super powerful and skillful nowadays, because you have all those skill sets and all those contacts and everything. I mean, that's a very interesting path.
I've had to use everything at my disposal to be where I'm at now. To have a game on the market on Steam, to have a game called Consortium, to have the game that I envisioned to exist at all. It took everything that I had in my disposal and then some. Right? It was actually even more work than it required more knowledge than I had. I had to learn a lot on the fly because being a AAA dev, you get used to things like having entire marketing departments at your disposal. You have massive marketing budgets. It's just assumed that everybody's going to hear about your game. All you got to worry about is making the game itself, right? Indie, you've got to basically do all that crap yourself as well, and it's a whole slew of stuff that I knew very little about. So
I'm in that boat right now, actually. So it will be my first game that I will sell because I did a bunch of Flash game before. But on Flash we just put the game online and then poof, it spread itself. So we don't have any marketing to spend or whatever. But now I actually want to sell a game, and now I'm learning all that. So I do understand. I'm in the same boat. So how about you talk a little bit about your game, Consortium? What is it about? We saw that it was a scary sci-fi. I don't have the words. Please present it to yourself. It's way better than what I can do.
The trailer we watched is the sequel. So, but I will describe the game that exists on Steam right now, Consortium 1. It's best described as the tip of the iceberg, so to speak, of it would be murder mystery on a plane in the future.
Okay, nice.
That really sums up a big chunk of what the first game's about. It's basically like introduction to our world. We spent years building the lore and building up the world, building up the characters, the people, the places, the setting. I mean, we really went all out so that when you dive into our world, you can totally immerse yourself. It's an immersive sim type game in the vein of System Shock and Deus Ex and sort of the old school games you see very little of today. So it's kind of like turn the lights off, put your headphones on, just completely dive in. Yeah. And honestly, the rabbit hole is so deep, it goes as deep as you want it to go. Because we have an entire in-world lore database, the hundreds of thousands of words, and there's an entire AR alternate reality game in the web that you can dive into and play through the whole thing. That's massive, just massive. One of the biggest ARGs ever made, actually, out there, in terms of content and stuff. So it's really big, with a lot, in terms of how much you can use your imagination to spread its existence. Now, I will tell you, was one key twist that our IP has, that Consortium has, and it has to do with the IDGI-1 satellite. This just ties into our ARG. Essentially, we have a satellite up in orbit that's capable of opening up an interdimensional vortex into an alternate future reality. Okay. So what Consortium is not really a game. It's actually a piece of software that allows you to access the satellite and shut your consciousness into the mind of a human being in an alternate future. Okay. you can follow me there. So that's kind of the caveat of the whole experience. That's really there's a meta fictional element to our game. In that you can imagine yourself sitting in front of the computer rather than you're just playing rather than you just typing away in the keyboard, moving the mouse, and playing a video game. What you're actually doing is sitting in front of a computer, accessing the satellite, controlling a human being in a real quantum reality of a future.
Man, that's amazing. How did you start with that idea? I mean, you told that you were more of a coder or a / programmer, and how did you?
No. I'm a designer. I started off
designer. Sorry,
level designer, definitely, but I became more technical as the years went on. And learned
okay. So I mean, that means like that game seems like a lot of writings has to be involved. So you show.
Oh yeah. my brother Steve. I would say that the on top the IDGI really it's myself and my brother Steven. Steve MacMartin wrote all of the screenplay for the first game. It's actually a 500-page plus interactive screenplay behind Consortium 1. I mean, It's huge. It's huge. There's over 20 fully voiced characters in the game. Over 4,000 lines of recorded dialogue. I mean, it's really like a virtual novel in many respects. It all takes place aboard an aircraft. Have you ever heard of Warren Spector's One City Block RPG? It's like a concept he has, something he wanted to do after making Deus Ex. He had this idea for having a single city block, and the entire game would take place in this one place, and it was just all about inter-character relationships and making friends with people and building up sort of relationships with people, like creating a social space, a realistic, believable social space that you can interact with and cause changes and ripples and have an effect on. And that's exactly what we did with Consortium. So except rather than a city block, it's just an airplane. So it's a big triple-deckered futuristic aircraft. It's just the whole game takes place just cruising across Europe, heading towards Ireland, and there's a bunch of shit that happens on board. There's a mysterious murder. You got to walk around and interrogate the whole crew, figure out who did it. There's also a bunch of fighters show up, and you can get boarded. You got to deal with them. You got to figure out how to deal with them. You can shoot them. You can talk to them. You can actually play through the entire game just by talking through the entire game. You don't have to pull out your gun ever. We've got all these systems designed, combat system designed, and you can use them if you want to, but you can also just talk your way through the whole thing if you say the right things and do the right things and make relationships with the right people. So it's really intense. It's probably the most intense single player focused immersive game you can get there, pretty much.
You deserve a slow clap of respect, my friend. That should be okay. I guess okay. I have so many questions I wanted to ask you right now. Absolutely. How big is the team to take that
Consortium
massive project?
Yeah, what I call the core 6 shipped Consortium 1, so 6 people. Full time for 3 years made the first game. Okay,
and writers, artists, how many of them?
Yeah, I would say out of the 6, so it's myself, which is basically level designer and game scripter. So and then my brother Steven was the screenplay writer, and then Jason was the art director / animator, and then Ben modeled the entire plane, and then Travis did all the virtual choreography for all the characters. So he all the lip syncing and the virtual acting of the people. Did I miss anybody? I think that's.
What?
2, 3. Yeah, so I think that makes 6 of us. So anyways, the point is that each of us have played a major role. So now we're expanding the team. We got a bunch more people, a bunch more really talented folks that came out of the VFS game design program here in Vancouver. Some really, really great guys that we're sort of adding to our team. We're looking to expand the budget, extend the scope. We're now looking to basically the second game, the trailer.
Extend the scope?
Well, yeah.
When will it stop?
Well, the thing is that the first game was what we call a microcosmic proof of concept, in that we're inventing all this stuff. We invented this new way of telling stories interactively. We invented this world. We cast all the characters. We defined all the characters. We wrote all the story. It's all this work. That's so much hard work just to invent it. Now we're going to take all that stuff we invented, and we're going to expand it into a much bigger environment. So rather than being confined aboard a small aircraft, well, it's a big aircraft, but still an aircraft. Now we're taking all those mechanics and we're expanding it out into a gigantic futuristic skyscraper in the heart of London in the future. So we're making so it'll be much more exploration, a lot more. A lot more interesting situations, a lot more new content as you make your way through the game. You'll always be exploring and finding new places, and so it'll feel like a very different game in many respects. But it's going to be harnessing all the stuff we've already built for the first one. So, in many respects, oddly enough, it's a less risky project, but it has its own challenges. Right now, level design plays a much bigger role now, that sort of thing. But it
sounds like a massive project. How do you handle keeping track of all the dialogues and stuff like that? Because I never made it a heavy story game. Most of my game was more like right into the action, being banged, like Mega Man, for example.
Ryan,
it's right to the action. But
sorry. I have to mention I did forget Ryan Sheffer. He was the principal coder of our whole game. You forgot somebody. Yeah, one of our Stetson here is on the team. He's Stetson. Actually, who is Stetson? Who's Stetson?
Stetson.
Nicknames. Stetson, who are you?
Stetson.
Hey, who are you, Stetson? Answer my question. He'll get it. Anyways, my point is that Ryan Sheffer was the key coder on our game. He literally coded almost the entire game himself in C++. But so my point is that
you guys are not humans. You're super powerful.
Yeah, we were. The 6 guys. I would say the core 6 were super fucking human. Sorry to swear, but yes.
No, I swear all the time. You're allowed to swear on the show.
Very good.
Excellent. But how do you keep track of all the dialogues and everything? You have a software to to keep track of the dialogue trees and stuff like that. I mean, I have no clue on how you do that. Please teach me.
It was hard. Steve had a really hard time actually. Duke. Yeah. Okay. So this Stetson here is basically our lead tester. This guy was kicked ass. That's who Stetson is. So say hi everybody.
Hey, Duke.
He's also now developed our new website. So the TireProphecy.com is developed by him. So
nice.
Yes.
Okay.
Great.
Sweet.
It's a good question. So we invented interactive screenplay format. So what that means is we used OpenOffice. So we used OpenOffice it's an open platform. So we basically went in there and you can export stuff from OpenOffice. So essentially we wrote this system. It's almost like our own language, essentially a very simple language that allows you to have nested conversation trees. So Steve would go in there and he'd write a conversation and have a bunch of things the player could say, and then he'd have for everything the player can say, they'd have each one would have a potential responses from one or more characters in the world to what the player said, and then once again the player could then respond to those, and then it would continue to go deeper and deeper and deeper as deep as Steve wanted to go. So it was very fluid, very open, but keeping track of it was quite hard actually. You had to keep track of all the numbers and
Okay, so you built your own tools. Could you like visually represent like a dialogue trees and everything?
Well, it was all in OpenOffice, literally. So it was just like a screenplay, but just written in a kind of a technical format, right? So he would indent everything so that it would all be readable like code in some respects, right? So many ways he was coding, really. I mean, simple script code, but still coding. So he had a whole lot of it in his head, to be honest with you. So it was really hard. We're obviously updating the tools and stuff for the second game, so it's easier. But that's what happens when you invent something. When you invent something from scratch, you don't have time to make it all nice and pretty and easy.
You make it for yourself and that's it,
Exactly, yeah.
Just do it!
But you just do it!
Just do it! So, I mean, since you spent like 3 years on Consorium, right? You spent three years of development?
3 years, 3 years of production. There was about 4 years of pre-production before we hit production.
Of pre-production, that counts like all the writings and all the like building the engine.
Yeah, we actually used the source engine for the game, heavily modified in a bunch of ways. But sort of we did use the source engine. The source engine was really great for our choreography. If you remember Half-Life 2 and Half-Life 2 episodes, you know how the characters would have all this facial expressions and he'd look at you, and the lip syncing was really good. Well, that was really, the tools behind that are fantastic. They're still the best in class actually across the industry. So that enabled Travis, our choreography superstar, to actually do all that work. One person could actually do thousands of lines himself because the tool was so good. But anyway, my point is that the pre-production was more about like the ARG, building up the world. It was years of world building and defining the whole story arc and all the characters and what they're going to be like, and defining and raising the money to go into production. I mean, this is 6 people full time, and this is there were more people than that came on.
That was my next question actually about the funding. Yeah. So I'll let you continue though.
Yeah, so that 4 years was a lot of just, me doing, obviously, game design work in the beginning, making a prototype myself to begin with. So I did make a prototype. I built Zenlo, the aircraft, myself with a source engine tool with Hammer. It's an old school level. I built it out with brushes, if you know what those are. They're just sort of constructive solid geometries, old school way of building levels. They're like Lego blocks, you sort of paste together in big 3D space. And anyway, so all those sort of pre-work just to sort of understand what we want to build, visualize what we wanted to build, and the story. But the screenplay itself we hadn't invented yet. Going into the production, that 3 years includes inventing the screenplay system and then writing it and then implementing it. We knew what the story was, but we didn't specifically write the story because the specific write the story requires we have to have the format, right? So it was kind of like a chicken before the egg thing. So that first year or so development was really intense, just inventing the system, and then the 2 years after that or so we're fully making use of it.
Okay. Yeah. So we're talking about like 7 years in total.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So the obvious question is, how funding money did you?
How did I survive? How did we?
Make a sentence out of those words. It's a question where you are the hero.
How funding did us? Yes. There's many different ways we were able to fund it. It starts with me having a fairly decent nest egg coming out of Radical. I had been a AAA dev for quite a while, and I'd saved up a fair amount, so I was able to immediately live off that myself for a while I was building up the foundation of the IP and what I wanted to do and what engine we were going to use and that kind of stuff. And then I sort of got some contract gigs on the side, through my company. So I had incorporated the company. So started off as doing consulting for local game companies around here, and that was actually quite fun and successful. And that really did keep me going for quite a while. Some family helped as well, family investments. And then those are these early days, of course. And then suddenly something called the Canada Media Fund.
Yeah, CMF.
Yeah, CMF. So the 2010 was the very first year. 2010 was the first time you could apply for that, and we were really excited because when that was announced, I was reading all the stuff about how you would be eligible, what you got to do to apply for it, and wow, it's like we hit everything. There was everything in there that. It fit exactly the kind of project we were making. It is, very, very. You had to be innovative. You had to be truly Canadian, 100% Canadian, all this sort of stuff. So I was okay, cool. So we did it. We applied. It was like a stack of documents, like
Yeah, I know. We went through the same phase actually with
Did
the
you?
Ships and Beats. So we were just like waiting for a response, and yeah. So yeah, I mean, I know what you're talking about. Like, there's a shit ton of paperwork and like months and months of stuff. It was like super exhausting, and it's just like yeah, it's kind of a lottery ticket. You know, you don't know if like that month of paperwork will turn out well. You know? So I guess it turned out well for you then.
It did. We got $500,000.
Shit! Whoa. Okay. Nice. Nice.
Yeah, it was pretty fucking awesome. And if it wasn't for that, we would never have been able to make the game. No doubt about it. I mean, it was still hard with that, right? Yeah. Our game was ambitious, really ambitious, and you know, I was dedicated to seeing it made. So that definitely was a windfall, certainly, and allowed us to essentially employ. Our game was so experimental and so, you know, well, just straight up experimental. And some of the technology we were making had never been done before. It was all just like. It was all just we were trying our best. We were trying to do something, and we didn't know if we were going to be successful or not. So we were able to also qualify for what's called the SREDs, Scientific Research and Development Grant, or it's more like a tax credit, right? There's a special tax credit called the SRED, that you can apply for if you have a bunch of people in your company working on highly experimental stuff, that's technical and experimental, and it'll work. You can get a lot of the money that you're spending on their salaries back. So we actually had a couple of SRED claims that got a big chunk of the money we'd spent from the CMF money back. That in turn enabled us to keep going. So that was a huge thing that also helped us a lot.
Okay.
And a couple of things. We had a lot of people. Our CFO, our chief financial officer, is a really good guy. He had some good contacts. And we were able to do a bunch of. We pulled every trick in the book basically, and finding ways to, to start us using for tax returns, things like that, to try to find all the ways we could to keep going. So. It was still tough though. Regardless, we also went to Kickstarter. I should say, near the end of the project, we realized that we were really too close to the wire, and we really needed a bit of a boost. So, make a long story short, we did have a successful Kickstarter campaign.
Okay, sweet.
We raised $70,000 from there, and that really enabled us to get to the finish line.
And that's a good way also to promote your game, to talk about your game, get it out, right?
Oh yeah, promotion, and not only actually Rock Paper Shotgun specifically. I have to call out, they were really great. They really helped us out with the Kickstarter campaign. You know, they posted about our game and everything else. I would say, as far as indie developers are concerned, indie PC developers are concerned, RPS are great. Get your game in front of those guys. The chances are really good if they like it, they're going to post about it. You'll get massive exposure. So yeah, highly recommend those guys. But yeah, in addition to exposure, Kickstarter backers were great. A lot of them helped test our game. Yeah. In the early days, and that really, really helped. Our game is so hideously complex that it was really, really useful to get a lot of feedback in the alpha and beta testing phases, to sort of flesh out and get the game closer to the finish line, right? Because there's only so much you can do internally, especially with a game like ours, where you can play it so many different ways, and there's almost an infinite combination. Like literally, no two players can have the same experience with Consortium. Like it's impossible. It's not a linear ride of like Q cutscene 1, Q cutscene 2, shoot some bad guys. Oh, cutscene 3 triggers now. No. It's so there's Half-Life style fully integrated scripted sequences, but all a lot of it is driven by the players' choices and decisions, literally in the game, as to what triggers. So yeah, it's very open ended in terms of what can happen.
Sounds massive, man. It sounds really massive. I mean, you clearly are passionate about your game. If you can like make the same project for 7 years and still like, how was it hard to just finish the game? I mean, after working on the same project, I mean, when I work on a project for like 6 months, I got tired of it. I'm like, I don't want to finish that game. I want to go home and everything.
It's funny you say that, because I was actually just listening in on your stream just before you pulled me in, and you were talking about how difficult it is to finish it, and totally true. It's so easy to start projects, and it's so hard to finish them. That is, I could not agree with you more. That's 100%.
Yeah.
And you know what drove me is because this is the game I wanted to make my entire career. This is the culmination of everything I've ever done. The Consortium, to me, I'm so excited to be working on it because it's so progressive and it's so pushing boundaries, and that's why every day that I'm able to work on it is a blessing for me, because it's like this no game like this exists. Yes, I'm excited. That to me it's like I'm bored if I'm working on a reskin of some genre game, right? A game that follows all the beats, and it has pretty graphics, and it's just that stuff doesn't interest me at all. I want new experiences. I want to expand the brains of us gamers. I want to push what's possible with interactive entertainment, right? And blending storytelling and interactivity in a way that makes it so you can't tell one from the other. So it's a seamless blend. And it's very possible, and we did it with Consortium, and we're going to do much better with Tower Prophecy. We're pushing it much farther.
Shit, man, that sounds awesome. I want to try the game now. You're a really good seller now. you did learn how to sell your game because I really am now.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. I mean, I have had no choice but to do that. You know, I am genuinely passionate and I genuinely believe in what we're trying to do.
It shows. So I assume that you got your ideas like 10 years ago, and it was like that idea was just like not melting, but just like going into your head for like 10 years. While you were on the AAAs and say, one day I will do that dream job and everything. And now you're living a dream.
I am. We are.
Sweet. Yeah. Another question then. I assume that you're...
Not all roses. It's really hard. It's hard work. It's hard work. You know, I think that's something that... To answer I had to go back to your question about, you know, how do you finish projects, or, you know, how do you deal with the slump of after 6 months I'm kind of getting started. Well, the thing is that you have to realize at that point that, you know what, sometimes it'll feel like work. It's not always fun in games. It's not always, I'm making a video game, woohoo! Sometimes it's like you just gotta buckle down and go, this is work, this is my career, this is my job. Pretend there's a boss that's whipping me, pretend there's a boss that's, you know what I mean? Do whatever you can in your mental acrobatics to get yourself to realize that at the end of the day, it's still a job. You're just making it for yourself, right? And in some ways that's more difficult, but you gotta just force yourself to just get done. And sometimes, you know, it will feel like work, you know, but you just got to push through it. And it'll be worth it in the end when you finally have a product at the end. You realize all the blood, sweat, and tears went into it, and you're so proud of it. And at that point, it's all water under the bridge, right? So.
Yeah, it's hard to convince yourself that it is indeed work, because when you talk to your friends, they say like, "Well, you make video games; it's not an actual work." It's like,
oh, God. They have no idea. They have no idea.
Yeah, exactly. You know, so you've been like telling by all your friends and family members like, yeah, but you don't have a real job, so it's really hard to convince yourself that it is work. I have to listen to this thing. Blah, blah,
you know, it's a stereotype, and my parents have been the same way. I've been a real hard sell on those guys to my parents specifically.
Yeah.
To get them to believe that this is a real job, and I'm, you know, it's even after 20 years there's still some skepticism there, right? So like, oh my God.
Yeah, they're just like trusting you as like, okay, he's doing something I don't understand, but
it's a cultural thing, right? I mean, our parents especially have all grown up with the idea of you get a job, you're an employee. That's just what it is, right? Very few people become entrepreneurs. Very few people you know, sort of forge out on their own, and it's very, you know, and that's with the video game development. It's such a brand new industry that it's kind of, all things are changing. It's much easier to make video games now, so it's much easier to become an entrepreneur. But it's hard to see that. It's hard to see the bleeding edge. Right? People only see the stuff that they're taught and know and are used to, which is basically getting a steady paycheck every 2 weeks, and you know, you do your job, and then you go home and you do what you want. You watch shows, you consume whatever you want to consume, right?
Yeah, totally.
the consumer mentality. But that's just it's old thinking, and it's hard to get people to shake them out of their old ways, you know?
Yeah, just imagine. I mean, my father is a lumberjack, so for him to understand that his son is making video games for a living, he's like,
oh boy, that's a tough sell. Yeah,
he's like, I chop trees and that's it. You know, you don't even do nothing. I just sit down and like tap on the keyboard for him. So it's like mind blowing. Yeah. So he's like, you can feed your kids with video games. It's like, okay, it must be something. It must be doing something else. You know, he doesn't trust me. Like, that cannot happen.
You're doing something shady. Are you? What else?
Yeah, exactly. I'm selling drugs, man.
I'm selling
drugs.
Come on. The drugs.
We all do, like. Oh, nice.
Yeah. So, no, I hear you. Yeah.
Okay, let's go back to the audience. Actually, I've been ignoring the audience. I'm very sorry,
guys.
Actually,
there?
Well, usually I have like a software that tells me all the questions, but it doesn't work. So I have to scroll in the chat. So please, let me see. How long did it? By Mr. Luke, how long did it take to make the game, and what part of the production took the longest time? So how long was 7 years, I believe.
7 years. 7 years from you know, conceiving the idea that I'm starting to work on deciding to make my own video game and shipping on Steam.
Okay, and what part of the production took the longest time then?
Part of production took the longest time. I would say crafting the entire story.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, because the game really is an interactive story. And you know, what hinged on us having a game or running out of money and having nothing whatsoever was having a complete story in there. And so that really, you know, making sure we were able to craft a complete story was really one of the biggest challenges, and took the longest time overall, right? Because we had to invent the thing to tell the story with, then we had to go and make sure we had to go build it all and have the voice acting made for all of it, and then do all the work to process the voice acting and get the virtual acting in there, and then have everything trigger all the right places and have the whole thing put together in the right way. So it's pretty darn complicated. Like you know what? I'm gonna show you guys. This is actually the story structure of a consortium. If you I can try to put it so you can see this.
Nice.
Can you see it?
Yep, we can.
Okay, I'm gonna slowly pan by this.
Spoilers alert!
No, actually, no. There's no major spoilers in here. Just sort of, it's just sort of at a glance you can sort of tell how complicated the dynamic. This is the dynamic narrative, right? So all those arrows, it's all based on player choice, right? So whatever you decide to do is where the story goes, and that's so it's pretty complicated.
This is amazing, man. I mean, it's super hard to check. I am speechless, man. I had a question, I forgot it. Maybe it's gonna be back. Anyway.
Hopefully it answers the viewer's question.
Yeah, but the production took it the longest time. Yeah. Okay, another one. Legendarier. What was your biggest tackle in your game dev career?
Biggest what in the game dev career?
Tackle. It's like I would say obstacle, I guess.
My entire game dev career, the biggest obstacle.
Like, what was your biggest?
I would say it's two things. I answer that question. One is coming to terms with what I'm actually capable of doing and what time period I'm able to do it in. Personally, I've always had a bit of a problem with sort of overestimating my abilities a little bit. I'll get excited about, oh yeah, I can do that in X amount of time, and then I'll just the funny thing is back in the old days making Radix, I could actually do it. Because I was so young and I had so much energy devoted to it. I recall one time we actually switched an entire episode. So Radix was three episodes, so at 3 different locations. Every episode had like 8 levels, and each episode had different locations. I remember one time we decided, hey, you know what? We're gonna swap episode 2 for 1, so that the shareware episode is now the first one. It used to be the second one. We told us, so I had to go through and convert all the levels, take all the enemies and weapons from out of the shareware version, and all that kind of stuff. And I did it in about a week and a half. Like, it was just insane how much work I did in a week. I was just devoting a godly amount of hours. So that's sort of like internal drive and deciding how long I can. Kept on going. So I would consistently through my career bite off a little more than I can chew. So it would require an intense amount of work to try to actually live up to what I saw in my head. So I've come to terms with that, and I think I'm getting better at that now. I think I'm quite a bit more realistic with myself, more conservative with my budgeting and scheduling and whatnot than I ever was before. So that's one thing. I guess the second thing would be politics. In general, my career, I'm not a politician. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm a game designer. I make video games. That's just what I do. That's my trade. That's all I've ever peddled. That's all I've ever gotten money to do. And quite frankly, you know, the game industry is full of politics. Is full of making friends with your bosses and sort of making people happy. And you know, regardless of what you want to do, putting those aside and just doing what your boss wants you to do and that kind of stuff, right?
I can only agree.
Oh boy, you know what?
I can only agree. I went to the industry for a while, and yeah. I don't want to talk too much because I will be like walking my heads.
I don't want you to burn bridges.
But yeah, I can only agree.
I'm talking generalities. Yeah, it can be a pretty, you know, like a minefield place in some respects, right? You gotta be really careful.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say that's definitely my biggest hurdles for sure. I had to overcome. Yeah.
I want to have another question then. Are you working like 40 hours a week and just like only that, and are you making like overtime on 70 hours a week or whatever? I mean,
it depends. It depends. Sometimes 70 hours a week. Sometimes 40. It really depends. Generally speaking, throughout most of Consortium production, I was always adamant that weekends were always everybody's own time. Like I'm extremely adamant that everybody needs to have alone time. Everybody needs to do their own thing. Everybody needs to, you know, live their own lives. So, and that's never going to change. Me personally, it's all about what we're trying to do. Like if it's a particular financial crunch happening and we're working towards a particular goal, it needs to be done at a particular time. Well, I'll crank up the hours to try to get it done. Right.
Yeah.
Other times, if it's just those normal times, I'll just work really hard for the time I have, and then make sure to spend time with the family. I mean, I'm a husband. I've got a 4-year-old daughter. You know, so I try to spend as much time as possible with my family and stuff. Thank you. Yeah. We have a lot of fun together as a family, and I want to, but you know, that's life. Really, life is every day. It's one day. It's gone from your life. It's really important that we spend it well. You know, and that's to me, that's become very clear to me in the last couple of years. I spent so much time making Consortium and killing ourselves really and sacrificing so much to get that game made. You know, we're really hoping hard to raise a much better budget for this next one. To be pretty honest with you, right? That's one of the things we're looking to do is we're looking to go back to Kickstarter to raise a good sized budget to make Tower Prophecy. So.
Nice. I mean, that rings me a bell about something. I asked Remy Ismail like a month ago. I mean, a little interview, like one question interview with a bunch of people who made a creative career, And I asked Remy Ismail, like, what's your best advice on creative career? And he said, take care of yourself. Be sure that making games is not becoming the thing that you hate, So take care about yourself.
Yes.
So I was like, that's kind of in point with...
that happens a lot. You know what? I'll be honest with you, I won't name names, but there's a couple people that did work with us throughout production that didn't end with us. And, a lot of it has to do with burnout. You can totally work too hard on one thing. And if it's unbalanced, if you don't spend time on developing yourself and working on your own things, whatever that might be, it doesn't matter what it is, right? Whether it's watching your favorite TV show or whatever, just spending time on yourself. Then you will become burned out, and you'll have a bad memory associated with that experience. And that's just awful, really awful. You turn what used to start off as a great thing that you had a lot of fun with into a horrible thing you have a bad memory of. And there's no doubt I desperately watch for that with my team to make sure that no one's doing that and make sure that everybody's stays properly balanced, right? Like everything, you gotta stay balanced. Everything in moderation, right? And that includes game dev.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think the guy behind Anti-Chamber almost had a burnout actually.
Oh yeah.
And he made a very motivational speech about that. And he spent 7 years on making one game alone. And I mean, I remember I was not in the room, but I watched it. One of my friends was in the room while he was making that speech, and everybody was like just clapping in respect because the guy had was having like so much trouble like just finishing the game. It was like consuming all his life and everything. It was horrible. But I will have a link about that speech on a video like after the interview, because it was very, very good talk.
Yeah, that guy really, he's definitely someone to admire very much so, because he put himself out there and he really worked the circuit. Like he traveled around for years going to every game dev show he could think of to pimp his game. It really was just like, and it did pay off for him in the end, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
But I do think you're right. I think even to this day there's a bit of a dark hole in his mind in that game because of how much he killed himself making it. Yeah,
I think he's still recovering for that, experience. Speaking of which, we have Kojak TSLs asking, how did you guys avoid getting burned out from crazy hours? You have like specific not tools but specific like rules, or as you said, like weekends is you never work on weekends, you never ask your team to work on weekends.
Correct. I think there was maybe twice in the entire time where I suggested that maybe we could work a weekend because it was like right before shipping or whatever. Okay, but that's really, 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 really few and far between. Yeah, so I was always adamant that weekends were free time.
Yeah.
And that really the thing is how we worked, literally how we built about 80% of Consortium was distributed. So there's actually of the core 6, 2 of those guys were down in Seattle. So we're based here in Vancouver, BC. So Seattle's across the border from us in the U.S. and. But 2 of our full-time team members were in Seattle in their own place, working in their own place. For a while, the 2 of them were working together actually for the first year, and then they kind of split up and worked separately. But the point is that, and then the rest of us, for a while, we worked here actually in the basement I converted the basement of my house into an office for working on the game. So for quite a while, a bunch of us were here, but still, a big chunk of the time, we basically were all in our own places working on the game in our own time. But how it worked is that every morning, how it continues to work, every morning we have a scrum. Actually, it's 11 p.m. and actually, 11 a.m. I'm sorry. And actually, I'm supposed to have a scrum today. I may have to tell them it's going to be a bit late because of this, but that's okay.
You can cut like in 5 minutes if you want.
Well, yeah, I've got the giveaways too, right? But,
yeah, exactly. Oh, you spoiled it.
Oh, sorry.
No.
Anyways, my point is that we had scrums every morning, and the idea is that everybody would say what they worked on the day before and what they're working on next. And all that matters is that whatever you say you're going to work on next, what you say you're going to get done before the next scrum. If you get that done, it doesn't matter when you get it done. Then it's the next day. You just say, well, here's since the last scrum, here's what I did. Here's the problems I had, or whatever. Right? And it works really, really well. Especially the fact that I subscribe myself to the same rules, right? We're all equals, right? I may be the team leader, producer, whatever the hell title you want to call me, but the point is I follow the same rules. I also, say here's what I did last time and here's what I'm doing today,
Yeah.
So yeah.
Sweet, man. A good question from Triple Lasers here. With such a story-based game, what kind of techniques do you use to keep the dialogue trees from growing exponentially?
That's a really good question. I wish Steve was here to answer that question. He'd be the best person to answer that question because he wrote it. But I would say it's really just on our gut. It was our gut. So Steve's gut would just sort of determine what he wanted to get across with a given conversation with a character, where he wanted to go with it, the kind of questions we wanted to give the players to be able to ask this person in the context. It all had to do with the context of the situation. So if a conversation was about a particular thing, then the conversation would fully explore that particular thing, and then it was done. If it was more meandering, then Steve would just decide what he wanted to do in the conversation, and he'd just structure it in such a way so that it felt good for him, really, on a gut level. Right? And then it would go as deep as it went, and then at some point, if you went deep, at some point it would just loop back to the beginning. So let's say you went down a deep tree of like 6 embedded trees, then once you've gotten over discussing whatever that 6 embedded thing is, it would often just sometimes go loop back to the beginning again, or just sort of cut to the end of it and go, okay. Well, bye, see you later, something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
It was very fluid. The idea is that we modeled the system. It's called like a waterfall dialogue tree is what some people in the industry call it. And that it just and the way we've written it, the way Steve wrote it, it feels very human conversation. It's very fluid. It's very dynamic. It's very organic. It doesn't follow any of the prescribed ways in which many of the big AAA story-driven games do it, which is sort of like you just pump guys for information, right? You can say things over and over again, and hear them repeat the same thing over and over again, and it's done. The choices you have are like say something bad, say something good, say something neutral, or things like that, right? And none of that stuff's there. It's all just literally fluid conversation, right? Where you're just chatting with people, and it sort of goes. The conversation veers naturally towards whatever you bring up, whatever you want to say. So. It feels fresh that way,
I can't wait to play a game, man. I want to play it right now.
Thank you. That's awesome. The cool thing is that I know you're really busy making your own game, all that kind of stuff, but you could actually do a complete playthrough in an evening. Just take one evening, take 4 or 5 hours, and you could do a complete playthrough and get to experience the game for the first time. The game is very replayable, right? It's not like a plan. It's the most replayable story game that exists, to be honest with you. I can say that with all certainty. So you can literally you can do one playthrough in an evening, and then sit in that for a while, do another playthrough a year from now, and get a whole different experience, right? I mean,
yeah.
It doesn't require a lot of your time.
Well, that sounds like a good idea. Actually, I was thinking about making like some Twitch presents about me playing some indie games as well. If I present a game like every Wednesday, and I would love to make another session about me playing the game, and still talking about your game again.
Man.
So that would be awesome. I just have to find the place and talk to my wife and everything.
No, that'd be amazing. I'd love to join you for that. I'd love to join you. I could do commentary while you're playing, right?
Oh, that'd be great. That'd be
great. In person, and maybe your viewers like that. I could give in real time dev commentary while you're playing a game. That'd be awesome. I'd be all over it.
Sounds like a plan. Okay, that's a good update. Okay, one last question, and then we'll close the interview, and then we'll go ahead with some giveaways for Consortium. I believe you have like 4 keys.
Yes, I do.
Awesome. Okay, so the last question is by Mr. Nizero. What was the best marketing decision you made for your game?
Going to Kickstarter.
You Kickstarter? Yeah, because of the like rock paper shotgun, talk about you and everything.
Oh yeah, I got lots of other press as well, lots of the Reddit posts and Twittering and all the people that backed us, telling their friends about what they backed, and I mean it's just on and on. There's no doubt about it. That was our best decision by far. Kickstarter was a key part of what got us into as much mind share as we've gotten into, right? And there's a lot more to go into. I feel our game has way more to grow the market than it currently has. But it definitely was the best decision for sure. Yeah.
Sweet. Okay, I got one last question. Tower Prophecy, estimated date, ETA. That's the hardest question ever, right?
if all goes extremely according to plan, you'd be able to play a version of it on Steam at the end of 2016. So Christmas 2016.
Okay, sweet. So okay, nice. But you decided to start to talk about it like here and there, like posting some sneak peeks from like today. I mean, you started talking about the sequel right now, so you're going like some updates, or is there a place where you can get updated as well?
The towerprophecy.com, best place to go.
Okay, sweet. All right, I think I'm gonna include the interview because you have the scrum to do like in 3 minutes, and I don't want to take too much of your time.
We can push it a bit late for these giveaways, but yeah.
Yeah, anyway, I'm gonna do the giveaways like right after the interview. What I was about to say, please send me a link to the trailer of Consortium. So I'm gonna play the trailer right after the interview, and then after the trailer, I'll do the giveaways. All right?
The trailer for the game. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sure. Sounds
Consortium,
good.
because you're giving away keys for Consortium, the first.
Yes. Yes, I am.
Of course.
Yes, I
Okay.
am.
All right. So sweet. So please send me a link like to the trailer. So I'll pop that out right after the interview. So thank you very much, man. It was really awesome. I mean, your game looks amazing. You have some really good, really cool techniques and everything. I learned a lot of stuff from you, man. So it was amazing. Thank you very much for being here.
Absolutely my pleasure. And you know what? I'd love to, seriously, if you want to play the game live and have me talk over it, I'm all over that. That's fantastic.
All right, sweet, man.
Thanks. You have an awesome show. Thanks for having me on your show. Really cool.
Thank you very much. Thank you for being there, man. See you later.
Yeah, cheers, man. Have a good one.